Anthony Joshua just survived what could have been the end of everything. The boxing champion was involved in a devastating car crash in Nigeria that left 2 people dead and the entire sports world holding its breath. This wasn't a minor fender bender. This was a high-speed collision that completely destroyed the front of the vehicle, and Joshua was inside when it happened. The images coming out of Nigeria are shocking. A mangled Lexus Jeep, emergency responders rushing to the scene, and Joshua being pulled from the wreckage in visible pain. Just 10 days ago, he was in the ring in Miami, victorious against Jake Paul, planning his comeback and eyeing that massive fight with Tyson Fury. Now, he's lucky to be alive. What makes this even more heartbreaking is that Joshua wasn't alone. 5 people were in that car. 2 of them didn't make it out. The heavyweight champion is dealing with physical injuries, but the emotional trauma of losing people who were with him in that moment, that's something no amount of training can prepare you for. This is the story of how close we came to losing one of boxing's biggest stars, and what happens next for a fighter who just faced the toughest battle of his life outside the ring.
For more on this, I'm joined by sports journalist Chris Scudder. Chris, great to have you on the show. So, terrible news coming out of Nigeria today. What more do we know about Anthony Joshua's injuries following this car crash?
Well, all we know at the moment, the police have said that he is, quote, fine. Minor injuries. I've seen the pictures, as I'm sure you have. What we believe happened was a Lexus Jeep was traveling from the capital Lagos to a town called Sagamu, which is where Joshua has relatives.
The details are still coming in, but what we know so far is absolutely terrifying. Joshua was traveling from Lagos, Nigeria's bustling capital, to Sagamu, a town where his family has deep roots. This wasn't some random trip. He was heading home after his fight in Miami, taking time to reconnect with his Nigerian heritage during the new year. The car he was in, a Lexus Jeep, was carrying 5 people. And according to police reports, the driver attempted a high-speed overtaking maneuver that went catastrophically wrong. The vehicle slammed into a stationary lorry with devastating force. The impact was so severe that the front of the car was completely obliterated. Metal twisted, glass shattered everywhere, and the front seats where 2 people were sitting took the full brunt of the collision. Those 2 passengers died at the scene. Joshua was in the back seat, and that positioning likely saved his life. The rear of the vehicle remained relatively intact compared to the front, but he still took a massive hit. Police pulled him from the wreckage, and photos show him sitting upright, but in obvious distress. His face tells the story of someone who just stared death in the face and survived. The authorities are calling his injuries minor, but anyone who's seen those images knows that's downplaying what he just went through. This man is a world-class athlete whose body is his livelihood, and he just endured a trauma that would sideline most people for months.
Well, he went to boarding school anyway for the new year. We believe there were 5 people in the car, and the police at the moment are saying they believe an overtaking maneuver was made by the car at high speed. It crashed into a stationary lorry, and sadly there were 2 fatalities after that. Joshua was in the back seat. We believe.
Here's what makes this situation so much worse. Joshua wasn't just injured. He witnessed 2 people die, people who were traveling with him, possibly friends or family members. The police haven't released their identities yet, but Joshua was there. He was in that car when everything went wrong. He heard the impact, felt the vehicle crumple, and had to process that 2 people in the front seats didn't survive while he did. That's survivor's guilt on a level most people never have to face. And this comes at a moment when Joshua was finally finding his footing again. His career has been a roller coaster of highs and devastating lows. He was the golden boy of boxing, undefeated and unstoppable, until Andy Ruiz shocked the world and beat him years ago. Since then, he's lost 3 times. Twice to the great Ukrainian Alexander Usyk, and once to Britain's Daniel Dubois. Those losses forced him to take fights he never imagined he'd have to take, like that circus match against YouTuber Jake Paul, just 10 days before this crash. He won that fight easily, as any real pro would against a novice, but it was a step down for someone who once held multiple world heavyweight titles. Now, just as he was building momentum toward a potential mega fight with Tyson Fury in 2026, this happens. The physical recovery might be manageable. The doctors say minor injuries, and Joshua is tough enough to bounce back. But the mental and emotional scars? Those don't heal with rest and rehab. He'll carry this moment with him forever.
Yeah, Chris, we're seeing those pictures on our screen right now and can see the impact that that car actually took during that accident and the front of the car. And as you say, Joshua was in the back. But Chris, you did mention to me this news comes just 1 week after Joshua, of course, went head-to-head with Jake Paul in that big fight. How much of a shock do you think this will be for the sporting world and the fact that Joshua did take a hiatus and appears to be having some sort of comeback plan?
The boxing world is in shock. Social media exploded with messages of support, prayers, and disbelief that this could happen to someone like Anthony Joshua. His family released a brief statement expressing their shock and hoping for a speedy recovery, while also honoring the two people who lost their lives. But behind that statement, you can feel the weight of what almost happened. One of the sport's biggest names, a man who's brought millions of fans to boxing, nearly died on a road in Nigeria. And now everyone's asking the same question. What does this mean for his career? Joshua is 36 years old. That's not ancient in heavyweight boxing, but it's not young either. Every year matters at this stage, and any setback, physical or mental, can derail everything. The fight everyone wants to see, Joshua versus Tyson Fury, was supposed to happen later this year or in 2026. That's the mega fight that the British public has been demanding for years. Two of Britain's greatest heavyweight champions, both former world title holders, finally settling the question of who's truly the best. But now, everything's uncertain. Even if Joshua's physical injuries are minor, the trauma of this crash could affect his mindset, his confidence, his willingness to get back in the ring. And there's also the reality that he was with friends or family in that car. People he cared about died. How do you come back from that and focus on training, fighting, promoting about like nothing happened? Some fighters would use this as motivation. Others would step away entirely. We don't know which path Joshua will take.
Yeah, he's 36 now. I mean, Joshua's career really was ruined when he was beaten by Andy Ruiz some years ago. A huge shock in the heavyweight world. He was the golden boy, really unbeaten, lost to Andy Ruiz, and has since lost 3 times, twice to the great Ukrainian Alexander Usyk.
What's being overlooked in all the career talk and fight speculation is the human side of this tragedy. Just hours before the crash, there was video of Joshua playing table tennis with friends, laughing, enjoying his time back home in Nigeria. That's the image of a man at peace, reconnecting with his roots, celebrating life after a tough year in the ring. And then, in an instant, everything changed. That's the reality of how fragile life is. You could be a world champion, a millionaire, someone with security and resources, and still end up in a mangled car on the side of a Nigerian road, fighting for your life. Joshua survived, but 2 other people didn't. Their families are grieving right now, while the world focuses on the famous athlete who made it out. That's not to diminish Joshua's trauma. It's to highlight that this accident destroyed multiple lives in different ways. For Joshua, the physical recovery will happen. He's an elite athlete with access to the best medical care. But the emotional recovery? That's the real battle. Every time he gets in a car, he'll think about this moment. Every time he sees footage of the crash, the memories will flood back. And when he steps into the ring again, if he chooses to, he'll be carrying the weight of knowing that he survived something that others. That changes a person. It changes how you see the world, how you value your time, how you approach every decision. Anthony Joshua nearly died in Nigeria. That's the headline that almost was. Instead, we're left with a story of survival, loss, and an uncertain future. The boxing champion walked away from a crash that took 2 lives, and now he has to figure out what comes next. Does he push forward with the Tyson Fury fight and give the fans what they want? Does he take time to heal, not just physically, but mentally from the trauma of this accident? Or does this moment make him reevaluate everything and step away from the sport entirely? We don't have those answers yet. What we do know is that Joshua is alive, his family is grateful, and the sports world is sending prayers and support. But two people didn't make it home that day, and their loss can't be forgotten in the rush to talk about boxing matches and comeback plans. This is bigger than the ring. This is about life and the fragility of everything we take for granted. Anthony Joshua survived. Now he has to decide what he wants to do with that second chance. Do you think Joshua will fight again after this? Or is this the moment that changes everything? Drop your thoughts below.